Alex, Sarah, and Mark, driven by a mix of curiosity and bravado, stood at the edge of a crumbling pathway leading to Willow Creek Manor.
Are we really doing this?
It's now or never. Let's find out if those stories are true.
And I've got the flashlight to prove it.
It was a grand, forsaken structure whispered about in their small town, the subject of numerous ghost stories and warnings. Today they resolved to unveil its secrets, their hearts pounding with both excitement and fear. The air was crisp, leaves rustled ominously as they stepped forward. They approached the manor, each step echoing in the silent, eerie afternoon. As they reached the imposing front door of Willow Creek Manor, it creaked open slightly as if inviting them in. They exchanged nervous glances, swallowing their fears. With a collective deep breath, they crossed the threshold, stepping into the unknown. The adventure had begun, and there was no turning back now. The interior of Willow Creek Manor was a tapestry of shadows and dust. As their eyes adjusted, the trio could make out grand staircases winding upwards, and portraits with eyes that seemed to follow their every move. The air was thick with the musty smell of decay, and every step stirred whispers from the aged floorboards.
This place, it feels like it's watching us.
This place feels alive.
The hallway was lined with antique furniture covered in white sheets, giving the appearance of ghosts lurking in the corners. Soft, inexplicable creaks and groans echoed through the vast halls, making the hair on their necks stand. As they ventured deeper into the manor, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. Faint, eerie melodies seemed to drift down from the upper floors, a haunting lullaby that no living soul had played in years. Each room they entered was a snapshot of a long-forgotten life, frozen in time yet disturbed by their presence. They couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, stalked by something unseen. The further they explored, the more intense the manifestations became.
Did you see that? A shadow just darted across the wall.
The shadows seemed playful at first, darting around corners, but soon turned sinister, lingering on the edges of their vision, beckoning them deeper into the manor's heart.
Something just touched me.
It must be just drafts, or tricks of the light.
In one chilling moment, Sarah felt a cold hand brush against her back. She spun around, her breath caught in her throat, but saw nothing. Alex tried to rationalize the occurrences, suggesting drafts and tricks of light, but his voice faltered, his skepticism waning as the air grew colder, the whispers louder. Their flashlights flickered as they approached the library, a vast room with book-lined walls and a grand fireplace. As they entered, the door slammed shut behind them with a thunderous bang, plunging them into darkness. Their hearts raced, panic rising, as they frantically tried to open it, to no avail. Desperate to find another exit, they scoured the library.
It was I who stumbled upon the hidden mechanism, a book that when pulled revealed a secret door.
Behind it lay a small, dusty room filled with old journals and letters, a hidden trove of the manor's dark history. They lit candles and began to read, the flickering light casting unsettling shadows. The journals belonged to the original owner, a man tormented by loss and grief.
His writings spoke of his beloved wife's mysterious death and his subsequent descent into madness.
He wrote of speaking to her spirit and others, of his home turning into a bastion for the dead.
The more they read, the more the sorrow and madness in the room became palpable. As they absorbed the tragic stories, the temperature dropped sharply. The air felt charged, heavy with despair. The candles flickered violently as if reacting to the sorrow emanating from the pages. The friends realized they were not just in a house, but in a home still echoing with the heartaches of the past, trapped forever within these walls. Their reading was interrupted by a low, mournful wail that reverberated through the manor. The sound seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere, a lament that chilled their souls.
She's not trying to scare us. She's trapped here, suffering. S1. Tentatively, we left the hidden room, only to be met by the apparition of a woman, her visage sorrowful and spectral, floating at the end of the hallway.
As they followed, the temperature dropped further, their breath visible in the icy air. The spirit led them to the grand ballroom. Here, the air was thick with the scent of old roses, the walls adorned with faded tapestries. In the center, beneath the cracked chandelier, stood a cradle. The ghost hovered over it, her expression one of longing and immense sorrow. It was clear this was the epicenter of her pain, the loss of a child perhaps, the catalyst for the haunting. The atmosphere in the ballroom grew oppressive, the despair nearly palpable. Alex, Sarah, and Mark felt the weight of the ghostly sorrow bearing down on them, a century of grief condensed into a single moment.
The ghostly woman's eyes met ours, and in that instant a silent understanding passed between us. We needed to set her free.
I recalled a ritual I read about in the journals. I suggested we attempt to release the spirit.
With hesitant movements, they arranged the room as described, using old relics and chanting words written in the dusty pages. The air vibrated with energy, the ghost's form becoming more intense, her face contorted in a silent scream of release and redemption. As the final word was uttered, a fierce wind swept through the room, extinguishing all candles and throwing the manor into darkness. When the light returned, the ghost was gone. The oppressive air lifted, replaced by a peaceful, almost sad silence. They had freed her, but the manor felt emptier, its heartache somewhat lessened, yet still lingering in the air. As they made their way out of the now quiet Willow Creek Manor, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the landscape. They walked in silence, each lost in thought about the night's surreal experiences.
We had come seeking ghosts, armed with skepticism and a thrill for adventure, but left with a profound understanding of sorrow and loss.
The gate creaked loudly as they exited, a stark contrast to the silent acceptance of the manor. They promised each other never to return, the memories of this night enough to last a lifetime. Yet, as they glanced back, a curtain fluttered in an upper window, as if waving goodbye or beckoning for their return. The road home was quiet, the trio less talkative than usual, each processing the night's events in their own way. Willow Creek Manor, with its sad history and spectral inhabitants, had changed them. They understood now that some hauntings are not just manifestations of the supernatural, but deep, unyielding echoes of human emotion and tragedy.